welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, but you can call me Ems. Today I am here for another 2022 wrap-up video, and this is everything I made in 2022. I might call it everything I knit in 2022 because algorithms, am I right? Today I'm dressed up a little bit in my sewing machine earring and my knitting earring, just to show off a little bit of the crafty spirit. But this is another PowerPoint video, so let's jump into the PowerPoint with a different theme this time. Everything I made in 2022 with me, Emily Donnelly. So I first wanted to jump in and just talk a little bit about my crafts that I do. I do a lot of crafts. So I knit, I crochet, I sew, I cross stitch, I embroider. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. If it's fiber craft related, I either do it or want to do it. These photos are just stock photos that I found on PowerPoint. So let's talk first about knitting. I worked very hard on my knitting this year. It was my main craft throughout the year, and I'm very proud of the projects I was able to finish and those that I'm still working on this year. I think I really honed my craft and got significantly better at it and saw improvement and results throughout the year. So let's start with my project that I have finished. The first thing that I finished in 2022 for knitting was my Shawlography. So Shawlography by West Knits was my first mystery knit along with West Knits. I did start it in the October of 2021, but I did not finish this until February of 2022. I did find that it was very difficult for myself, considering I only learned how to, I relearned or retaught myself how to knit in 2020. And prior to this, I had only done very small projects with very basic stockinette and garter stitches. This one included slip stitches, German short rows, baubles, changing colors every other row kind of thing, other forms of short rows, and brioche of all things. I-cord. This is the first time I learned I-cord, those weird I-cord loopy things. And this is I'm probably the most proud of this one for this year, because I know that had I known what this was going to be when I started it, I probably wouldn't have started it, and I am so impressed with the improvement in my technique. In that close-up shot right there, you can probably see that my brioche is lacking, for lack of a better term. But honestly, for my first time doing brioche, I'm not mad at it. So this was knit in loops and threads wool-like, in black and golden yellow, as well as rose, teal, and olive. And I don't know if I would want to use this yarn again for knitting shawls. I chose this because it was very inexpensive. It was about $4.50 Canadian per ball. And having done the mystery knit along this year, or started the mystery knit along this year, spoiler alert, I chose wool this time, and I'm very happy I did. I have very much become a big fan of wool, especially hand-dyed wools, and when it comes to things I'm going to be spending months on and working with, I want it to be an enjoyable experience. And while loops and threads wool-like wasn't the worst experience I've ever had, it's not my absolute favorite, which is also why it is now on the wall behind me, because it's not my favorite to wear. Yes, it's really soft, but it's got that plasticky heat that acrylic has, and it's a bit too warm, but it's so beautiful. And not too warm, I mean warm in that like makes you sweat, but you're not actually feeling warm kind of way. But it's so beautiful that I just like, you know what, let's just put it on the wall. It's now wall decor. And that's what you see in a lot of the backgrounds of my videos is that. So probably the thing I'm most proud of this year because of how far it stretched my skills. The next thing was the I'm So Basic sock by Summerlee Design Co. This is a free pattern from her arsenal of patterns. She's an amazing sock designer, and this is just a simple pair of socks, and this was my first time doing top-down socks, and I very much enjoyed working on these. I don't recall what size I did. I think it's adult medium, but I'm not 100% sure. This is done in Patton's Croy Sock muslin, which is the cuff, heel, and toe, and then lichen and lace seagrass, which is the main portion of the sock. I really like this colorway seagrass and having the gray, that slight greeny color, and that kind of maroony red color, and how it kind of stripes together. And because it's a very subtle color shift, I wanted to keep it pretty simple, so I put it in this I'm So Basic sock. So I very much like this one, but I think in future I would knit this with a bigger needle size than is recommended. I did hit gauge, but I find the fabric too dense for my preference, so in future I will definitely be going up a needle size and having a slightly more drapey fabric, which for some people for socks don't like that. I like it to be a little bit, not drapey, but kind of like less dense, I guess. Then I have probably one of my bigger projects that I've been working on for a long time is the Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. I started this back in 2021 and I got kind of stuck in limbo, and no, it was not sleeve hell. I was not stuck in sleeve hell. I was actually stuck in the body hell. Having so much fabric to knit in straight stockinette when you're doing an oversized sweater when you're already plus sized is a lot of knitting, and especially when you're doing it in black. It was not fun, and I didn't want to work on it throughout the year. Like during the summer, I didn't want to work on it then. So I finished this come September of 2022. So this was a long haul, but I'm very proud that I finished it, and it is my first ever knit sweater, and it will not be the last. I did this in size 4X. It's quite oversized. It is even more oversized now than it looks in these photos because it did stretch as it settled on my body and as I've worn it over and over again. I really like the oversized fit because I can just throw it on, I can put it on over other things, and you'll probably catch me wearing this a lot during the winter. This is entirely done from acrylic that was in my stash. I do know what it was though. It was Lion Brand Ferris Wheel in the color Sprinkles, which is that color that I did for the raglan portion and part of the body. I did this kind of color blocking technique because I only had a certain amount of sprinkles left and I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to make with it. So I was like, why don't I just color block and do it with black? And I think it turned out really fun. The stripe came out really great because it is fairly long stripes, and the color change is kind of marled together. So that it moves very smoothly from one color to the next. And you kind of see that the stripes are a bit thicker towards the neck, and then they get thinner and thinner towards the body. And I think that's really fun. And then the black was done in Bernat Premium in black. And I like the Flax Sweater so much that I made 2 more, but not for me. 2 of my cousins actually had babies this year, so this is probably my first time properly having babies in the family after having learned to knit. I say that because my cousin Greg, if he ever sees this, would be like, hello, I had a baby. I had 2 babies, in fact, and you didn't make anything for them. It's because I didn't knit. Sorry, Greg. But I decided to make 2 little tiny flax sweaters. In size 6 to 12 months. They were like these big, and they're so cute. This was done entirely in stash acrylic. That I know that the gray was loops and threads, impeccable in true gray. And I don't know what the red and the green are, but if it is loops and threads impeccable, then it would be claret and forest, looking at the colors on the Michaels website. But they could just as easily be Patton's Canadiana or a Red Heart, not Super Saver, maybe Burnout Premium. Those are the possibilities, but I think they're loops and threads impeccable because the yarn twist looks pretty identical between the true gray and then the green and the red. So I think they're all loops and threads impeccable. Either way, acrylic is a great choice for babies because it is machine washable and machine dryable, just not on like a hot setting, obviously. So definitely baby friendly, and I thought that this would be great for them because the babies are both around the size 6 months now, and this will last them through to the spring. This is probably my crowning achievement, though, of the year, in the sense of just how this is the Slipstravaganza by West Knits. This was the mystery knit along for 2020. This pattern is what made me fall in love with West Knits and what made me want to do the mystery knit along in 2021 when I was getting back into knitting. But this, I knew I had to make it, and I knew I needed it to be wild and crazy and beautiful. At first I was thinking of doing it in oranges and like foresty greens, kind of like one of the samples that he had as an example, but I ended up finding this beautiful Lola Bean Yarn Co. yarn in Sugar Skulls, which is this variegated neon disco happy time. And I found it on Facebook Marketplace because someone had bought 2 skeins and didn't think that they were going to use them. So they were selling them and sending them off to someone who would. And boy, howdy, did I ever use it. This was a very long haul project. I don't think I would have ever been able to finish this when I was doing, like if I was doing it as a mystery knit along. I definitely would not have been able to finish it within the October. That's for sure. But just look at it. Just look at it. I think that this one is more visually impactful than Shawlography, but it is, in my opinion, more simple than Shawlography. It uses less technical skills, in my opinion, but you also have to remember, I've now climbed that hill of Shawlography, and now I've gone into Slipstravaganza, so maybe my view of this is skewed, but I think I did an amazing job on this one, and I think it's a very approachable pattern for someone if you've never knit a West Knits pattern before. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because I'm very bad at judging my own skills, as well as what a beginner should and should not know, and what is considered actually hard in knitting. But this was very simple in the sense of it's if you know how to knit, if you know how to purl, if you can make one, if you can decrease, and slip stitches, you can knit this pattern. You can knit this pattern. It's just like, it's very technically simple, but pattern-wise complicated. I guess that's how you put it. The other colors are Patton's Croissant in Celestial colors. That is the variegated, it's kind of pink, purple, and blue. I thought that that would be kind of a nice shadow to the bright neon that has that pink and blue color in it. And then I also used Gentry Gray and Cowl, which are very similar to each other. However, they are slightly different, so you kind of see like shadow and darkness. The next one I did was actually a test knit I was part of. It's the Mellifera Infinity Cowl by Jamie Lomax of, I think it's Pacific Northwest Designs or something like that. PNW Designs. on Instagram or something like that. This was a really fun color work project. This is my first time doing knitting color work and my first time doing 2-color Latvian braid, or in fact doing Latvian braid at all. So this was a really fun project to do as a test knit. I did the size medium single loop. It was in Daramore Studio DK acrylic in gold and brown. I actually found this yarn at Martin's in Holden, Maine, of all places, very inexpensively. I got 2 skeins of the gold and 1 skein of the brown, and I barely made a dent in that gold skein, in that second gold skein. So we definitely got some left. The back of it is like this really fun honeycomb stitch pattern, and then the main portion is that color work bee and flowers design. This was knit for the birthday / Christmas present for my friend Cameron, and it was just very her. I'm like, she liked the bees, so I make the bees. There you go. Next thing is the Maize Fingerless Mitts by Tin Can Knits. This is from their Learn to Knit series, which is a bunch of completely free patterns, the exact same series that the Flax Sweater comes in, and I chose the fingerless option because I thought I would like to have something to keep my hands warm while typing, while at work, working in the winter. This is done in size adult medium, and the yarn is Briggs and Little Heritage that was hand dyed by King Woolens. Then I did the Maize Mittens. These were also, again, by Tin Can Knits, but the full mitten version. This is also size adult medium in Briggs and Little Heritage, also hand dyed by King Woolens in a different colorway. These were made for my mom for Christmas, and these were put into her stocking. So I thought these would be really great for mom going onto the playground at, in the winter time, because she works with children. So I thought that would be just a nice thing to keep her hands warm. The next thing I have here is Fingering Toe Up Magic Loop Socks by Liette Gatt. These are size adult medium in Loops and Threads Perfect Pair, the colorway Atlantic City. These are not my favorite socks in the world, but they are quite cozy and comfy. They're great for lounging, not so great for wearing in boots and things because these do sag a bit. Not my favorite yarn to work with for socks, a little too stretchy in my opinion, but I do like the colors though. The colors turned out really beautiful. As you can see, I like to make my socks fairly short. I don't like having full-size crew socks. I prefer more of a shorty sock or a mid-length sock, maybe like sport length, I suppose it would be called. I've made one other pair of these Fingering Toe Up Magic Loop socks in 2020, I believe it was. Yes, 2020, because I was at my old job, and I made them knee-highs. I made knee-high socks for my first pair of socks. Talk about second sock syndrome. Next thing here is the Gyllis Shawl by West Knits. This was done in Red Heart Comfort in the color Spice, and this was made for my very good friend Megan for birthday / Christmas once again. And just look how happy and beautiful she looks. I thought that this color would complement a lot of the stuff that she wears. She wears a lot of like emerald green and tans and kind of pinks and like mustard yellows, and I thought that this kind of spice orangey brownish bricky color would go really nicely with a lot of things that she wears. And the size of this shawl, this is one of West Knit's older designs, and a lot of his older designs were much smaller and more architectural. So I thought that these like architectural like stripes with the lace pattern was really nice, and that it could be worn as a shawl or as a scarf, and I thought that was perfect for Megan, and she loves it, or at least she says she does. And now for my works in progress for knitting. I have the Twists and Turns by West Knits. My yarns are Patton's Croy Socks in Cowl, Sweet Skein of Mine in Pumpkin Chai, not Pumpkin Chair, sorry. And Yarn Indulgences in Rhonda, which is that kind of tealy color you see up there. So this is kind of where I'm at right now. I've done one side of the cable pattern. So I just need to do the other side of the cable pattern. And then I have to do what we are calling the seat belts. And then I can do the stripes on the sides to finish the wings. And then there's a piece that finishes off the bottom there where those loops are being held by stitch markers. There's a little extra piece that's being added on underneath. I took a break from this because there were some other projects I wanted to work on more. And I found this shawl, because it's so symmetrical and you're doing something on one side, then on the other, I was finding it a bit, not boring. I was enjoying doing the first part, but then you have to do the second part, which is similar to like second sleeve syndrome or second sock syndrome. You know? I need a little bit of my blood of my enemies. In a skull mug, also known as lemonade and cranberry juice, as you do. Next thing on my works in progress is the Montmartre Jumper by Fable Knitwear. I'm doing it in size 4X. You may notice on Ravelry it does not list size 4X as available, and that is because she didn't have any test knitters for that size. So if you are also a size 4X and you want to make this sweater, you can just simply shoot her an email and she will send you the pattern to knit. When I finish knitting it, I'm going to send her some notes, any notes that I have on the pattern and on the fit of the size 4X, just so that she has some information on that size. This is being done in Briggs & Little Sport in brown heather, rust, and gold. This yarn was so kindly purchased by my mother for my birthday when we went and visited the Briggs & Little wool mill and outlet store that they have there. So this is actually a fair amount further on in the body. I'm knitting the body first before the sleeves, and I'm actually a fair amount further in the body. I'm about 12 or 13 centimeters down the body now, and I think we're doing pretty good here. The next thing I have on the needles is the Rain or Shine Socks by West Knits. If you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a West Knits fangirl. I'm doing these in size 3. I was debating between size 4 and size 3. However, I kind of fall very much between the two of them, so I chose size 3 to have some negative ease. The yarn is Patton's Croy Sock in Cowl. That's probably going to be in a lot of my knitting because it's a very good plain black fingering weight yarn. You know, it's an old standby and I can get it anywhere. And then I'm using the Sweet Skein of Mine Festival of Lights mini sock set, which is done in a stellina yarn. I don't think you can see it very well in the picture, but there is that silver thread running through the yarn, which gives it this subtle shift and shine in the light, which is pretty fun. And I thought this was a really nice pattern to show off all those colors where the colors sort of layer onto each other. Now onto crochet. Before I was a knitter, I was a crocheter. I taught myself to crochet in 2007, and it was not until 2020 that I relearned how to knit. So actually, I've been a crocheter significantly longer than I've been a knitter, but I didn't do as much crochet this year as I did knitting. Starting with my finished projects, we have the Twisted Toadstool hat by the Twisted Hatter. Patterns like this are ones that I love crochet for. These really architectural, like, just designs that just so good. And the Twisted Hatter is amazing for these sort of patterns and these fantastical, fun designs. This is in the adult size, in Loops and Threads Impeccable in Claret and Erin. I love the little teeny weeny little mushrooms. I would like to at some point get little white pom-poms, like the little felted pom-poms, and just stick them onto the tiny mushrooms so that my tiny mushrooms have little spots on them too. But look how cute they are. I love this hat. This hat is what I put on when I need a little bit of whimsy, when I need a little bit of love. It's so good. Heavy, but good. Next is these cross-stitch detail cloths that I just did myself. No pattern. The yarn is Bernat Handicrafter cotton in coral rose and teal. These were done as a gift for my Aunt Kathy for Christmas, and she really liked them. They were a request from her to have some cotton cloths, and very specifically, she did not want Christmas colors. So I chose the farthest things I could think of from Christmas, which was teal and pink, apparently. And the blue one, the teal one, has pink cross-stitch triangle, and then the pink one has teal cross-stitch triangle on it to add a little bit of visual interest. I don't know why this still says cross-stitch detail cloths, but clearly this is a tiny crown. This was my birthday crown. The pattern is by Crochet 365, so that's correct. Oopsie doodle. That's the size on me. It's designed to just fit over my bun, and then I just used a hat pin to hold it in place. Pardon that my hair looks like actual straw in that picture. It was, for some reason, just very dry that day. And I wore it on my birthday to my birthday dinner because I was the birthday princess. And there is a picture of Strahd looking very unimpressed because he does not want to be a birthday princess. This is done in size 0 to 3 months in Bernat Heartland Yosemite. Next I have is this Irish lace cowl by Creative Crochet Corner. This is done in loops and threads wool-like, left over from my Shawlography. I had actually originally purchased this gray color instead of the gold color for my Shawlography, but last minute I decided to sub in that gold color, and I'm very glad I did. Significantly better in my opinion. These colors are gray, olive, and rose, and this was a gift for, it was either Mother's Day or my mom's birthday, and I don't remember. I just remember that I gave it to my mom. Next is this little American Girl doll patterned tank top by Kimation's Design. This doll is obviously not an American Girl, if you know American Girls, but it is an Our Generation doll, and I named her Dorothea. Actually, in fact, Adelaide Beeman-White here on YouTube named her Dorothea, and I took that suggestion and ran with it. So her name is Dorothea. And I made this little tank top for her, although I do plan to make some 1890s clothes for her so that we can match. It would be very cute. There is no sizing because it's an American Girl shirt. It's for any 18-inch doll. And it is done with some stash cotton that I don't know the brand or where I got it. Next is the Pride Mesh crop top that I test crocheted for alt knots. There is no sizing in this pattern. It is in fact made to your own size. You basically you crochet in the pattern style. Excuse me. You just crochet a chain to the specified number of stitches, which is like, I think it's like 3 plus 1 or whatever, like in multiples of 3 plus 1 or whatever. And after you do that, you basically do it until you get a length that you want. Then you start doing your mesh. So this is made to size like that. And this is in the Lion Brand Ice Cream yarn in Tutti Frutti. I have since donated this because turns out I don't like crop tops. I then made this chunky slipper basket for my partner because he wanted a basket for his slippers. So I made a basket for his slippers. I didn't use a pattern. I just kind of made it up. And this is in Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick in the color Spice. Probably one of my favorite chunky yarns in one of my favorite colors ever. My biggest crochet pattern probably ever is my duster cardigan. This was made by me. It's a mesh duster cardigan. There is no pattern. I'm very sorry. I just kind of made it up on the fly. If you're interested, maybe I could figure it out and write a pattern, but it would be just to my size. I don't really know how to size patterns, so I'm not sure how to do that. But it was entirely inspired by this yarn that me and my partner found at Michael's. It is Loops and Threads Charisma in the colorway Dragonfly. Look how fun that is. Don't look at that and tell me that that is not the most Halloween fun yarn you've ever seen in your life. Like, hello? And I love it. It's just very heavy, so I haven't worn it a lot, but I'm very proud of this pattern. I just love the way it looks. It feels very vintage, walking around in my duster and a lot of, you know? My crochet works in progress, and by that I mean one, is my Adventure Tee by Eclair Makery. I'm actually further along in this one than pictured, but this is the only picture I have of it. I'm almost done the front panel. It is probably the most complicated color work pattern I've done in crochet because it's a map of the world. I'm doing it in size 4XL. The yarn is Lion Brand True Boo, which is super soft and silky, and the only thing is it's very splitty and it's making it a bit hard to do the color work, but the actual fabric is coming out so beautiful, so I'm gonna push through it and get it done. So pictured, you can see tan, sky, rose, and mushroom. Not pictured is mulberry and goldenrod, which are being used for portions on the neckline that look like a compass. So, and I'm at this portion, like I'm this close, so we're almost there. Next, we're on to embroidery and cross stitch. I don't do a lot of embroidery and cross stitch, but I always have at least one project a year, and this year I have 3. For finished projects, I have my Steotchalong 8. This is by Steotch, which is a mystery stitch along for cross stitch that is done mostly every year, but we missed last year. But we did the Steotchalong in 2020. So this one was really fun. It's if at first you don't succeed, and then the bottom portion, you actually get to choose how you want to end it. So I chose if at first you don't succeed, let that shit go. This was one of the easier finishes that was provided in the week 7 pattern. The week 7 pattern has like a bunch of endings and then also just elements that you can mix together to make your own ending. I was running on a time crunch because I am part of Team Coven. And in order to be counted, because this is also the cross-stitching championships, if you've never looked into it, it's kind of ridiculous, but it is like team cross-stitching championships. I'm part of Team Coven, and in order to be counted for your team and get points, you had to have it finished by December 26th. So I was literally in the basement of my mom's house on December 25th stitching this. But we got it done. It is on 16 count Aida cloth, and the threads are by DMC. The cloth is either Loops and Threads or DMC. I kind of pick whichever one I vibe with when I go to Michael's. Next is my Athena's Thimble badge. I'm a member of the Athena's Thimble Embroidery Guild, which is part of the Society for Creative Anachronism in the East Kingdom. This is done on a linen cotton blend. The threads are by DMC, and that is a real tapestry needle. The blue that you see there in the picture is actually a water-soluble pen, which is now gone from the badge. I just took the picture before washing it. Finally, my work in progress for embroidery is my black work stitch along from Peppermint Purple. It's the 2022 stitch along. I joined super late. I joined in like July, and this is a 52-week stitch along. So it runs the entire length of the year, and there is one pattern per week. I started in July, and then I did January and February, and then I did nothing until like a couple weeks ago. So I've been zooming through this. as you can see, I've actually put one in the wrong spot, but there you go. It'll blend in. It'll be fine. So this is black work embroidery, which I am learning as part of the Society for Creative Anachronism, and it was the Steotchalong was recommended to me, although it is modern black work and is non-reversible patterns. It is really good in teaching me the just different methods and different things, like how to handle my threads and, you know, all that fun stuff with stitching. This is also done on 16 count Aida. The threads are DMC 310, and then I switched to DMC Pearl Cotton in black. And I think I might stick with Pearl Cotton. You can kind of tell that the lattice pattern is where I started with the Cotton 310, and then going around clockwise, you can see the ones with the thicker lines is the Pearl Cotton. And I like it with the Pearl Cotton a lot better. It's more bold, it's more visible, that sort of thing. So, and finally, sewing. I got back into sewing in 2019 and find that I don't do a large number of projects, but I am very mindful of the projects I do work on. This is because I do a lot of hand sewing and that sort of thing. And I'd rather spend more time on projects I know that I'll wear for a long time than quickly make a lot of things that I will never wear. So this is the only thing I actually sewed in 2022. It is an 1894 shirtwaist by Truly Victorian, sewn by hand and on an antique treadle machine from 1919, just in the other room. It's an antique Singer sewing machine. Love it. This is, I love, 1890s sleeves are kind of everything. Like, look at these Leg of Mutton sleeves. We live, we love. This is actually a quilting cotton that I thought had a very 1890s pattern on it. Like, it just looked very 1890s to me. Love it. Love the, like, browny, kind of yellowy brown color. It goes so well with my corduroy skirt. I live, laugh, love. And it's because I'm working very slowly on an 1890s wardrobe because my goal is to eventually have enough clothes that I could wear 1890s clothes every day. But I don't want to rush into it. I want to mindfully make things and make things that I like and that will last. So that's what we're working on. And then a little note on mending, because actually most of the sewing I did in 2022 was spent mending clothes that I have made in previous years. For example, my black 1898 walking skirt, I had to do some fixes on that around the hem as well as the closures. My corset needed all the mid bones removed and then boning channels put back in, put the bones back in, and then put the binding back on. And that's a lot of work. My chemise needed some fixing and some mending, and my brown 1898 walking skirt also needed mending, which I did most of my mending by hand except my corset. That needed some machine work. And I make a smaller number of items, but I truly cherish the items I make and ensure that I mend them so I can keep wearing them. So when it comes to these sorts of wrap-up videos, you're probably not going to see a lot of sewing from me. But because that's mainly because I've really been focusing on knitting and honing those skills. And hopefully maybe in 2023, I'll have a few more sewing projects and a little bit less knitting, but we'll see where the wind takes me. Let's talk my stats. Y'all know I love stats, so let's take a look. So my finished versus works in progress. For knitting, I have 11 finished objects and 3 works in progress. For crochet, I have 8 finished objects and 1 work in progress. For embroidery, I have 2 finished objects and 1 work in progress. For sewing, I have 1 finished object and no works in progress. And then in total, that is 22 finished items and 5 works in progress. I thought thought I didn't make a lot of things this year because I thought that I had spent so much more time on reading because I read 44 books. If you didn't see my other video, all 1 hour and 8 minutes of it, I thought I spent so much time reading this year that I would not have gotten any projects done, and I felt like I didn't do a lot, which I find a lot of costumers and a lot of craft tubers saying that they thought they didn't do as much, but then when they look back, they've done so much more than they thought, and that is true. A year is a long time. And to finish 22 projects and have 5 on the go currently is wild. The next thing that I think is kind of interesting is this shouldn't say finish and works in progress. I'm sorry. This is by the category of things that I made. So the largest category that I made was sweaters or tops, which is 30%. 7% is hats, 7% is cowls, 15% is shawls, 18% is socks and mittens, 19% is decor and home goods, and 4% is doll clothes, which was one thing. So one thing makes up roughly 4% of my knitting for the year. But hey, well, crafting for the year. But thank you guys so much for watching today. I loved having a chat with you. Let me know down below what kind of things that you got up to this year. And I'm hoping to make a knitting, sewing, craft resolutions video as well. Maybe in this PowerPoint style. We'll see if this is kind of anything people likes. But I actually really like it because it makes me be very intentional with what I'm talking about and what I'm putting in my video, so I'm finding it very fun. And I also just love putting together PowerPoint presentations. Was I the only kid? Was I the only one who just made PowerPoints for fun? I know I'm not, because I watch a lot of Plumbella and she's the same. But don't forget to subscribe. Follow me everywhere on at EmsIsFab, Instagram, here on YouTube. I deleted Twitter. And have a great day. Goodbye.